I've said that a lot, but I probably even more so today need to say how appreciative I am of the opportunity back for our administration, for Ren Baker, for the university to give us another opportunity to come back and build the best program in America. We got a long way to go before we do that, but that's our mission. That's what we're going to do. Work hard every day to do that. So I'm blessed to be back.
Rich Rodriguez was adamant that he did not want to be the story today, but let's face it, it was inevitable that was going to be the case. For the first time in more than 6,000 days, more than 18 years, Coach Rodriguez is a victorious head coach of his alma mater after a homecoming game. For the head football coach, West Virginia opens the 2025 season and a new era of Mountaineer football with a 45-3 victory over Robert Morris. And we're here to recap the emotion, the excitement, the ups and downs of the day here on this edition of the Golden Blue Nation podcast, our first postgame pod of the season. Nick Farrell here alongside Sydney Cariel. We're brought to you as always by Mountain State Oral and Facial Surgery, your premier dental implant destination. All right, Sid, before we get into the good and the bad of the day, and there really is a lot to break down from this one.
Yeah.
Just your initial thoughts on the buzz around this place with 57,000 plus in the stands.
Yeah, it was, I'll say 30 minutes out, you had the second deck, it didn't look as full, so I thought, it's game one, whatever. I don't know, the team comes out, and then I turn around and look, and it is full to the top. It was loud when the Let's Go Mountaineers started. I don't know how you didn't get chills from that, and I know Rich Rod won't say it, but I think Coach Rodriguez probably felt that, let's go Mountaineers. It was so loud. It echoed in here. So it was cool. And you could just tell a lot of people, everyone was excited.
For sure. And so for fans who maybe didn't come to the game today, fans who remember Coach Rodriguez's first stint, there were a lot of throwbacks today in terms of the fan experience. A lot of music from the 2000s.
Yeah.
Some Soulja Boy, things like that. There was also the train in the hype video. The hype video started with the train. I know a lot of people have been talking about that on social media. The place went nuts.
Yeah.
Owen Schmidt was also featured in the hype video at the beginning of the game.
Yeah.
Same thing. Place went nuts. Coach Rodriguez has said a bunch of times he's not here because of nostalgia. He's here to win games. But everybody else associated with the program is definitely getting involved.
Gotta add, too, when the players looked loose warming up. Like when the songs are playing and everything, they're kind of bouncing around, singing. Like they seemed ready for the game and not any kind of nervous at all. It just seemed like they were just ready to get out there and finally play someone else.
So they showed up, got a touchdown first drive. West Virginia looked like it was going to assert itself. I mean, that tempo on that first drive with Nico Marchiol, by the way, the starting quarterback, the Mountaineers marched right down the field, and it looked like they were going to do whatever they pleased with the Colonials here on Mountaineer Field.
It did.
That wasn't exactly the case, though, in the first half. So I think as we recap the good and the bad, we probably need to start with the bad, Sid. Coach Rodriguez, a quote that stood out to me was the quote that you heard at the beginning of this podcast. You're going to hear more from the head coach in a little bit when we go to the podium, but there's one little snippet that really stood out. Quote, watching the film is not going to be a lot of fun. And Coach Rodriguez is specifically referring to the first half during a period of time when West Virginia turned the ball over 3 times in 4 plays, 3 consecutive drives ending in fumbles lost. And in total, the Mountaineers put the ball on this brand new turf at Milan Puskar Stadium. They put the ball on the turf 4 times, 3 recovered by the Colonials. It was only 10-3 at halftime. So I think that when you start with the bad, Sid, that's got to be right there at the top of the list, the fumbles and also the penalties. Coach Rodriguez disappointed, 9 penalties, 69 yards. Our Cody Nesper, by the way, asked the head coach about ball security in practice. And Coach Rodriguez says it'll be a huge emphasis in practice this week because if it happens again, 3 forced fumbles, fumble recoveries by the opposition, and 4 fumbles for West Virginia. If it happens again against any other opponent this year, there may be no coming back from that.
Yeah. You know, in fall camp, we've talked about it before. Rich Rodriguez said a couple of times that in their 2 scrimmages, there's a lot of penalties that he didn't want to see. And a lot of them were lazy penalties, as in holding or false starts, just like mental errors there. So he pointed that out in fall camp, and then to see 9 penalties today, that film session's not going to be fun.
No, right. No, Sid, I think we've had what is it now, 3 episodes of Mountaineer Game Day in the last 24 hours. And
Yeah.
at some point in one of those shows, you had a key to the game or key to the season that was ball security, and West Virginia shouldn't beat West Virginia.
Yes.
And all of the things that Sydney said, hey, don't do, West Virginia did those things in the first half.
Yeah, but then they got it back. They got it together in the second half.
They did.
So, you know, it's okay. It's game one.
Right.
They'll figure it out.
Game one for a team with 70-plus newcomers, right? There were bound to be some hiccups in this game.
Yeah,
but West Virginia ultimately did get things figured out in the second half. So that was the bad. There were some bad things, but it's not a huge list, right? There's a handful of things. So let's flip it to the good.
You know, I got to say, before we flip it to the good, Amanda Maisie told me when right before halftime, because it was 10-3, and you know, at that point, I think everybody in the building thought the Mountaineers would be up at least by 2 scores going into halftime, and that's nothing against Robert Morris. It's just what we had seen from West Virginia, but they weren't. So Amanda goes to me, you know what Randy Maisie used to say? It'll be telling how the team responds after halftime, for what this coaching staff can do, and they responded. They responded really well.
Coach Maisie's thing was always to say advantage Mountaineers, and that was definitely the case. The Mountaineers had the advantage in the second half. I guess if we want to add one last note to put a dot on this, one last bad might be that West Virginia didn't get to sub as much as I think the coaching staff wanted, and that was because of those 3 consecutive drives that ended in turnovers in the first half.
I feel bad for the defense there in the back half of the second half, or of the first half. So the back half of the second quarter.
They were just out there all the time.
They were out there the whole time. I mean, I don't want to say they looked tired, but you had to feel for them that they it felt like they didn't even get a chance to have water and then come back out.
Right. So defense is definitely one of the pluses. Let's start with offense, Sid. 625 total yards for the Mountaineers. That's pretty good. With nearly 400 rushing yards. We mentioned that Nico Markiel started at quarterback for West Virginia. He was 17 for 20 passing, 224 passing yards, 1 rushing touchdown, which capped that really quick up-tempo scoring drive in the first quarter. And then he had 1 passing touchdown, which was a really pretty deep ball to Cam Vaughn on the near sideline for 46 yards. That was early in the fourth quarter. 4 QBs ultimately did play in the game. There was Nico, then Jalen Henderson, then Scotty Fox, and Khalil Wilkins for the final few snaps, though it might be worth noting that the only quarterback who completed a pass other than Nico was Fox, who also ripped off a pretty electric touchdown run late in the game.
That was awesome. Where I was standing on the sideline, he ran right past me, and man, Jaheim White was very close to getting a penalty because he was like running in stride with him, and the coach had to be like, hold on, you guys, hold back. And yeah, that was just a cool moment. And when he came over to the sideline, everyone's like, that's our freshman quarterback. And pumping him up. So that's cool to see. It kind of shows the chemistry this team is building, I think.
And I would say a fair comp for Fox in terms of his fieriness on the field is definitely Garrett Green. Like those two dudes celebrate in a very, very similar way. You mentioned White, 7 yards shy of 100 yards rushing. Got a lot of work in the game. Cam Vaughn, we mentioned him too, 7 receptions for 127 yards. He was the only Mountaineer over 100 in the air. 2 receivers, though, did finish the game with 10-plus yards per catch. Okay, we touched on it a moment ago, Sid. You had some thoughts on the defense as we flip it to the other side of the ball. Just a really solid day for West Virginia. Yeah, gave up 3 points, but no touchdowns for Robert Morris. And other than one time when Bobby Moe got the ball in plus territory after one of those 3 fumbles, that was the only time West Virginia allowed points.
Yeah, it was almost a shutout for the defense. So close, only put 3 points up. But one player that really stood out, Chase Wilson. I mean, he had 6 total tackles, 1.5 tackles for loss, a sack, and a forced fumble. And he's a newcomer on this Mountaineers defense. Coach Alley talked about him in fall camp and just said he's going to be a leader as a linebacker on the team and is going to be basically the captain on defense. And he showed up tonight, that's for sure. This afternoon, I guess I should say. But he showed up today, and I think showed that's going to be a key player in this defense.
Thought Reed Carrico, if you're looking for a returning guy that was solid. I think he had a fumble recovery in the game. Solid guy all over the field today. But then for me, Sid, the guy that stood out on defense was Fred Perry. He's a guy that we heard a lot about during camp. He had 100-plus tackles last year for Jacksonville State under Coach Rodriguez. He definitely looks the part, though, watching him live. I mean, he was just getting in the backfield, blowing up plays. He was all over the place. Really excited and interested to see what Perry can do against some higher class opponents coming up here, not just in non-conference play, but into Big 12 play.
Yeah. We talked about Perry and the rest of the nickels on our Mountaineer Game Day kickoff special. Zach Alley had a couple of thoughts about him too, the whole defensive staff really. But yeah, Fred Perry was flying all over the place, and that's what the nickel position does. But what you're saying, one play, just all of a sudden I'm like, where'd he come from to make that tackle? He just flew in. Yeah,
he's a baller, and you're going to see, I think that he's going to be at the top of the scouting reports when it comes to West Virginia's defense for opponents most of the season. All right, so that's our list of the goods. Why don't we hear next from the head coach, Rich Rodriguez, following West Virginia's 45-3 victory over Robert Morris in the season opener. That sound from the head coach is coming up right after this short break. You're watching and listening to the Golden Blue Nation podcast presented by Mountain State Oral and Facial Surgery, your premier dental implant destination.
Wisdom tooth extraction, I'd actually had the same procedure performed here some years earlier, so I felt very confident that this was the right practice for my family. We've always had a great experience with Mountain State. Everyone from the front desk to the attending doctor to the nurse to the aftercare. We were very satisfied with the result, as was our dentist. I would certainly recommend this practice very highly, and absolutely a 5-star experience for us.
Searching for a mortgage lender that's 100% local, personal, and focused on home loans? First Green Mortgage has been serving West Virginia for more than 35 years, and they can assist you with every step of your home ownership journey. Visit them in Bridgeport or Morgantown or at fgm.bank.
I would like to say that was a typical first game, but I don't know if I've ever had or seen 3 fumbles in 4 plays. That's, I think, what we had. I know we had 3 straight fumbles. So we obviously didn't play well at all in the first half. Had West Virginia beating West Virginia, there were some things we did okay, but we weren't obviously playing like we should have. In the second half, it went like it should have with that. So we'll take the win, learn from it. Obviously, there's a lot of things to clean up and fix, but there's a lot of guys playing for the first time, and there's a lot of things we got to do as a staff to be better in the next week. But we'll take the win and grow from it and see what happens next.
Start with your emotions. Obviously, you've talked about it. You've been a head coach 29 years, 28, whatever now, but does this feel different for you?
Yeah, I did a little bit. Of course, I think coming back, Greg, and then the man trip, we didn't do a man trip when I was here, and that was pretty neat. I mean, the crowd was, I'm talking about unbelievable. Great crowd, dressed in gold, into the game. Unfortunately, we didn't give them enough good moments in the first half, but I thought the West Virginia fans showed up today. Now, I'm just telling you, and they showed up on the man trip. They showed up in the tailgating. They showed up during the game, and really appreciative of that.
After kickoff, at that point, do you just settle in and it's a game at that point?
Yeah, I think even before, even before you're tossed, just like you're focused on, are we going on offense or defense first? And felt good about, we didn't, do a lot of stuff, particularly after you got a little bit of lead in the second half. We were, being kind of generic and basic. But, the execution part, the fumble part is, I'd probably go back and say, should I have had more live practices where they got tackled with the helmets on the ball? And, and that, you go back and think, gosh, we probably should have had a couple more. So that's a lesson learned with that one.
Coach, fans got to see what Cam Vaughn's capable of at times today. What can make him special, and just what you see in his performance?
Yeah, Cam, they made Cam will frustrate every once in a while, 1 or 2 things. He dropped the ball, but he's obviously he's a great athlete. And he's a great competitor. Cam really loves to compete. He always feels he can get open and get by somebody. And I'm glad we took a deep shot. We weren't throwing deep balls today much, and it was good. He ran a great route. Nico made a great throw. So Cam's one of the most explosive guys I think in the country, and I'm glad he got some plays today.
Coach, how would you evaluate Nico's performance, and then what went into him being the starter? Because you had announced that before kickoff.
Yeah, I think Nico had shown it during practice. He was he was consistent, understood, had got a feel for the game, and he's a gritty player. All the quarterbacks run pretty good, and they're all willing runners. But Nico's a competitive guy. He'll do what he's got to do to win the game, and I think again, all those guys, it was their first time playing in this system. So our expectation is that they'll continue to grow and get better.
What'd you like from your defense? 2 yards per play, 120?
Yeah, I think we gave them 2 3rd down and 10s, I think, which was uncharacteristic for us. but they didn't they couldn't run the ball, and our front did a good job of getting the guy on the ground. I thought we tackled pretty well, and they're not a high explosive team, but at the same time, I felt the whole time during the game that the defense was going to be okay.
Was the tempo faster or slower than what you expected?
Ours, probably about what I expected. I think the difficult part is we never had a chance for the tempo to make an impact because we turned the ball over so much. If you're getting them on a line drive and tempo, and then there's a 3 and out, and they got to come back out. So we didn't get enough 3 and outs early, and we obviously had the 3 turnovers, which allowed them to have a lot of time to rest. So that was the multitude of reasons why we couldn't get the tempo the way we wanted to today.
You mentioned the quarterbacks. How do you assess the others that played, including Scotty Fox, who broke off for a big time?
Yeah, I think we should. If we had played better and coached better, these guys would have got in the game earlier, and we could have made a better assessment, But, I thought when Jalen came in, he ran really well, and he's got a nice burst. He did some good stuff. And then, the 2 young guys, Scotty and Cariel, are really, really talented guys that have shown some stuff. And this is a long season. And I'm not, if I got 4 quarterbacks ready, you guys, I did it today because we had to lead, and all that in the fourth quarter. But we got to get those young guys ready to play. And it was good to get Jalen some reps. He's an experienced guy. So I think all those guys will get better as the season goes on.
Coach, what was the message like at halftime today, and how do you address turnovers?
Yeah, I didn't try to, scrape paint off the wall or anything like that. I was, we just said, listen, we got to take care of the football. We got to play a little bit smarter. The penalties are really frustrating. I'm as frustrated or more frustrated with that because that's a lack of discipline. We're going to get that fixed right away. We have to. So, we had to correct the penalties, obviously had to correct the turnovers, and just relax and run the offense.
Coach, your first year back, and then obviously 1,000 new players. Obviously, you wanted a better execution, but are you proud of how they did play in week 1?
Well, I'm proud that there's no panic at halftime for anybody. The coaches, I wasn't happy, and the coaches, we always have some heated discussions, but on offense, but nobody panicked. The players didn't panic. They weren't, looking around with, big-eyed and like, what do we do now? I think there was none of that whatsoever, which we're going to need that because we're going to face adversity, with a whole lot, obviously, bigger teams going forward.
Coach, what do you make of the hard-edgedness and the effort, and whether or not
I think we played pretty hard, but I've got to watch the film. I don't know. We were physical, I think, at times, but let me watch the film and then see how up front on offensive line, if we were as physical or as strong as we need to be. I'll wait and watch the film before I judge that.
Coach, talk a little bit about your emotions at the end of the game, just with the country roads and all
that.
Yeah,
the greatest tradition in college sports, singing country roads after a win. A lot of the crowd was still here, the student section. Wasn't the weather nice? Holy cow, it was a beautiful day. I said, I don't know what the attendance was, but it looked pretty packed. I know there was one little section maybe where the students were at that wasn't completely full, but I said, I know our players really appreciate that. I mean, they do, because I tell them this West Virginia football is really important to a lot of people. And when they get a crowd like this today and into it like they were today, it kind of backs those words up.
Rich, it looked like several times you came on play.
No. Had we played better in the first 2 quarters, we'd have played more people. So that was disappointing that we didn't play as many guys as I'd like to play today.
It looked like offensively you doubled up on a lot of plays. Came right back to one that it either worked or you felt like it was open or whatever. Is that something that you had an idea that you can do? Is that kind of part
Well, a lot of that's tempo oriented. We like to play at obviously when you run the same play over and over again, it's you can run it at a faster tempo. And I think again, I'll have to watch the film. Our tempo was okay today, and then we slowed it down, toward the end of the game a little bit. But I'd like to say, watch the film. Probably it's not going to be a whole lot of fun, especially in the first half. But we got to watch it and correct it.
Coach, for the majority of the game, your rush yards, pass yards were pretty balanced, and rushing kind of took over late. Is that a factor of what Nico kind of brings?
Yeah, I think whatever your quarterback's strengths are is what you're going to feature. And we're still, I mean, you think you have an idea, right, of each one of them, but we only played one game. So as the season goes along with the quarterbacks, we'll have a even better idea what they do well, what they can execute in the offense, and then we'll take it from there.
And then positives from Jaheim today, what did you see?
Jaheim ran hard. I'm a little disappointed we didn't get him loose for some longer runs. And I'm going to have to see what the reason was. It might have been getting outnumbered. I don't know what the case was, but he's an explosive guy, and we didn't get him enough explosive opportunities, I didn't think, today. So I got to figure out what happened with that.
Rich, how do you go about attacking fumbles in practices?
Well, yeah, you could go live, and I think at least two of them were hats. They put their helmet right on the ball, but that's going to happen. We just got to lower our shoulder a little bit and protect it some. But no, it's going to be a huge point of emphasis, certainly, because we do that in any other game we play this year. You might not be able to recover. In this game you could, but in the rest of them you're not going to be able to.
Is it as simple as just hitting guys in practice when they're?
Yeah, I think the difference is when you hit in practice, they know it's coming. It's easy for them to hold it like this. They don't run like that. It's not natural. So. A lot of it is I'll have to watch the film. I'm going to see how they're carrying it. Are they carrying it with their elbow out? Is it loose while they're running? All those factors are going to be studied with the tape.
That's West Virginia head coach Rich Rodriguez speaking after West Virginia's 42-point victory over Robert Morris in the season opener. Mountaineers, of course, moved to 1-0. Coach Rodriguez with win number 61 in his career as the head coach of the Mountaineers. That's tied for second in program history with Dana Holgerson. Of course, Don Nealon owns the all-time wins record at WVU with 149 in his career. So, Sid, before we wrap this up next, we got to look ahead 7 days away from a road trip to Ohio. And it's not going to be an easy one, I don't think, for West Virginia. No. There are a lot of things about the Bobcats. They have some really positive trajectory in their program. They won 11 games last year. Yes, they have a new head coach. One of those wins, by the way, was over Jacksonville State in a bowl game after Coach Rodriguez had signed his contract with West Virginia and had his press conference here. So 11-win team, new coaching staff for the Bobcats, yes, but, I mean, it's a sellout. And I know there's been a lot of talk about how many West Virginia fans are going to Athens, but I don't know the last time off the top of my head that Ohio has filled its roughly 27,000-seat stadium. That's not going to be an easy out on the road against a group of 5 team that wants blood, right? And then you have to consider that Ohio almost went to Rutgers and won.
Yeah.
Lost by 3, 34-31 on Thursday.
So they've already got a tough game under their belt in a hostile environment. Mm-hmm. So you think about that. Now they're going to be home with the crowd on their side. Well, maybe half. Either way, they're on their home field. All the things. It just makes up to be a pretty big game, I think, on Saturday. I don't know. And then that leads to the big one here against, do we say their name
yet? Pitt. That's right. You can say it.
I don't know.
Some folks may say lowercase p, though, Sid. I
think today was a big showing for West Virginia, and I think Saturday is going to be a big test. They have to, like Rich Rod said, you guys probably just heard, he said we have one day to figure out the penalties and the turnovers. That's it. They're going to look it over tomorrow, get it fixed, and really that's all they have time for.
You have those turnovers on the road against quality opponents. That's not a recipe for success, and Coach Rodriguez has said this before. His opinion is that with the tempo that West Virginia plays, penalties are as bad as turnovers. So West Virginia has to make some corrections in those two categories specifically before heading on the road to take on Ohio. And then, of course, in 2 weeks, coming back here for a game that's going to be an absolutely bonkers environment.
Yeah. With that said, though, if they do go to Ohio and have a big comeback game, if you will, like almost a clean sheet, I think that'll be huge for the rest of the season.
That's a really great point.
Yeah, I think it would be a big confidence boost moving forward.
Would love to be 2-0 coming into the backyard brawl and playing good football up against the Panthers. So we'll see what happens. We'll, of course, recap all of the action for you. Our team's going on the road to Athens next week, and I'm sure that many of you are too. So make sure you check us out here on the Golden Blue Nation podcast after next week's game. We'll have post-game shows every week following West Virginia football contest. By the way, stick with us on goldenbluenation.com and the free Golden Blue Nation app. Cody Nesper right now up there in the press box working hard on some digital content for you. Check that out on our website and app. Make sure you're following us on Facebook, Instagram, and X for more Mountaineer sports content. And of course, if you're listening on your favorite podcast platform like Apple, Spotify, you name it, remember that you can now watch the Golden Blue Nation podcast after every West Virginia football game at goldenbluenation.com, on the free Golden Blue Nation app, and on the Golden Blue Nation YouTube channel. That's a wrap for Sydney Cariel. I'm Nick Farrell, signing off. Thanks for being with us on the Golden Blue Nation podcast. This postgame show presented by Mountain State Oral and Facial Surgery, your premier dental implant destination.